When we were trying to find coterminal angles when we were working with degrees, we added or subtracted 360 because 360 degrees is a full rotation, and we ended up back where we started. Well, when we're working with radians, we're going to add the radian equivalent of a full circle. And we recall from class that 2 pi radians is equal to 360 degrees. So all I'm going to be doing to find coterminal angles, and again we'll do one positive, one negative just like before, is I'm going to add or subtract 2 pi to my radian measure. So if I take 9 pi over 2 and add 2 pi to it, and if you want an easy way to do this using a calculator if fractions scare you, then just on your calculator do 9 over 2 plus 2. Don't type the pi in. If you do these on your calculator, it's going to multiply it in and give you something irrational and drive you crazy. So just type this in if you need to use a calculator as 9 over 2 plus 2. That gets me and get your answer as a fraction, that gets me 13 over 2, and then just remember there's a pi on there even though we didn't type it in our calculator. So 13 pi over 2 is a coterminal angle with 9 pi over 2 radians. To find a negative coterminal angle, I can take 9 pi over 2 and subtract 2 pi. Because 2 pi is equivalent to a full circle, that would get me back to where I started. Again, if you're using a calculator to do this, if you're not good with fractions, just type in 9 over 2 and subtract 2. Don't try to type the pi in or it's going to multiply it into your answer and give you something irrational and drive you crazy. Well, it turns out that when you do 9 halves minus 2, if I think about what that's actually equal to if I'm not using a calculator, that's 9 halves minus 4 halves or 5 halves. That's still not negative. Remember, you can add or subtract 2 pi as many times as you need to get something negative. Just like in our previous video, we had to add or subtract 360 a couple times to get something negative. So in this case, we need to subtract 2 pi again. I guess I should throw the pi on there. Subtract 2 pi again. And actually, you'll need to end up doing it 3 times before you get down to something negative. And remember, if you are using your calculator, just type this in as 9 halves. Don't type the pi in. Subtract 2 once, it won't be negative. Subtract 2 again, it still won't be negative. Once you subtract 2 a third time, you will end up with something negative. And it's actually negative 3 halves. So just don't forget to put a pi on your final answer. And remember, from our video in degree measure, there's an infinite number of these answers. So these two answers I found, 13 pi over 2 and negative 3 pi over 2, they're only 2 of an infinite number of answers. I can add or subtract 2 pi as many times as I want to find another coterminal angle.